HHTV, you may begin.
Welcome everyone to our April meeting of the Residents Council. Thank you for joining us on this Zoom broadcast while they're renovating our Anderson Hall. Let's review the agenda. Okay, first we have our CEO report, then our secretary's report, our treasurer's report, Monday market report. Then we have some remarks by our vice president for programs, Meg Erstel. And then we'll begin some spotlights, one on our neighborhoods committee and another on our welcoming committees. Then we'll hear from our vice president for administration and another announcement or two from our liaison group coordinator, Deanna Nelson. And then we'll have maybe some questions and comments. But first, before we begin our strictly business period of the meeting, I call on our CEO to tell us what's new at Horizon House.
Well, thank you, Elizabeth, but if I want to know what's new, I think I probably have to ask you rather than you folks ask me. But some updates. Certainly the Easter brunch, hopefully you may have had a chance to participate. It looked like a great spread and nicely done by Oliver. I mean, I think we all just so love the way in which they do the display. It just makes it so festive. So hopefully you had a chance to see it, if not enjoy it. Many of you participated in the philanthropy happy hour. I thought they just did a really fine job. It was a nice opportunity to kind of meet and greet and have some food and some kind of fun wine there. We also do a treat trolley that we take around to our staff so that they in turn can participate in a little bit of the fun. And we did that earlier in the month. On the not so bright spot, we still are fighting COVID, right? We do have a number of cases here. They are mild, but nonetheless they exist, and so that's why everyone in assisted living is required, residents and staff and guests to be wearing masks, and that we encourage people to wear masks really at all times, but certainly when you're moving around the community if you're a independent living resident as well. We do have our booster shot set up for April 27th. It seems like, the boosters are kind of becoming a part of our norm now. That is something you can arrange through by calling reception and getting scheduled. And I know that when we first announced it, there was a mad dash to get on the schedule. It's probably easier to get on now, given that the big rush is over, but take advantage of it. We're able to get Bartels here to come and do the on-site boosters. So if that is something you would like, please take advantage of it. It just makes it a heck of a lot easier for everyone. And one thing I wanted to mention that has now kind of come up, and I'm just kind of spitballing here a little bit and just kind of giving overall perspective. I had a conversation on Friday and then a conversation again this morning, one with a person that we work with for some of our financial modeling and things. And he's a consultant to a lot of communities around the country. And then I also had a conversation with the Morrison Food Service people this morning. And the things that we were talking about was the impact on inflation and the supply chain issues. So what's happening around the country in communities like ours is that they're facing, the pressure they face on inflation is forcing them to raise monthly service fees 10, 12, 16% and doing things twice a year. This is not our concern. I mean, I should say it's our concern, but it is not an immediate pressure for us. So I don't want to have that translate into an expectation here, because I think we're doing fine. Our increase this year was 4%. That was among the lowest in the country. And it's in part because we've managed things pretty well, but we're seeing this constant pressure. And it is a reality for all of you going to the grocery store or buying whatever you're buying. Maybe another, maybe bigger issue is the supply chain issue. It's not even about pricing. It is about getting the supplies we need. So in my conversation with Morrison today, they were saying how they're just simply unable to get certain things like paper products. Paper products have increased 40% year over year. And now, even with that increase, they simply can't access it. And they're one of the biggest buyers in the marketplace. And this is because they're simply not being able to be manufactured because all of the raw materials are not available. And you can see this is really beginning to have an impact throughout the economy, and we are not immune from that. So I'm thinking that as Morrison gives me more details on that we'll probably be having some conversation about choices we might need to make. You know, we may be forced to take some styrofoam packaging because we simply can't get any other packaging. But before we go to that extreme, should it come to that, I want to queue up some opportunity to have conversation with residents to say, well, what kind of choices do we want to make if we have to? So that we're all on board with what we might need to be doing, simply because the market is doing what the market does. We got great providers, great suppliers, but everyone is facing this incredible pressure, and it will put some choices on us, and it might be worth having conversation to decide how might we want to choose to either sacrifice this or to trade this out for this, whatever the case may be. For reasons that I would have never have anticipated, chicken is now more expensive than beef, and ham is more expensive than chicken. So it's strange what is happening in our marketplace with respect to, it's a war in Ukraine. It means grains aren't coming into this country, or fertilizer isn't coming into this country. So we are going to see these constraints and weird impacts on pricing. And I just want to give people the heads up so that when we make changes in dining, it's not because we're trying to be cheap or we're trying to, slip something by someone. We are just facing some strange pressures, and we'll try to have conversation where we can, but just kind of be prepared for that. Let's see. CEO monthly report comes out at the end of the month. Always encourage people to read it just to kind of stay plugged in. And then also fireside chat on the 29th. I'll be out of town at a conference with Christy. And this is our bond financiers put this on, the Ziegler Group. This is a great chance for us to get a better understanding of what other communities are facing around the country and how we juxtapose to them. So it's a great learning opportunity. I think we are in very good shape, and I feel really good about it. And I also know that the marketplace will force things on us that we'll just simply have to digest. We'll cross that bridge when we get there, but we're thinking about it and planning about it and trying to stay on top of it. That's it for me, Elizabeth.
Thanks so much, Mike, for coming to us today and keeping us up to date. Appreciate your time.
You bet. Thanks so much.
Connie Hellier now, our secretary, will present her monthly report.
Hi, all. The members of the council have received corrected minutes, and now is the time for you to approve them. May I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay, we have a motion before us to approve the minutes of our last meeting. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand or say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Now our treasurer, Diane Tinker, will give us her monthly report.
Do I have a slide? Oh, there it is. Good. So you can see our March income was $9,004. March expenses, $5,114 for a March profit of $3,890. March is our year end. So these next figures are our final totals for the year. Income of $87,000. Expenses of $66,000. So our year-to-date profit was $21,315. When we set our budget for the year, we were very conservative and budgeted income of only $58,700. The committees had asked for and were approved for expenses of $96,200. But because of COVID, many of the anticipated activities didn't happen. We had thought we would end the year at a loss, but we ended the year at a $21,000 profit. So we ended the year much better shape than we expected, and we're in a strong financial position for the next year. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, I'm hoping everyone has been down to the Monday market and met our new co-director, Jennifer Stucker. She's now going to give us a report on what's going on since she took over. Jennifer? Are you with us? I'm not sure. Can't tell. Are you muted, Jennifer?
Am I what?
Now you're not, now you're unmuted. Now we can hear you. Will you give us your report now? Thank you.
Oh, great. Sorry about that. I was busy in the market and just didn't pay attention to the time well enough. Well, first of all, I don't know if you've already welcomed Barbara back from her French lessons in Bordeaux, but I wanted to do that. And then give a report on the income for April so far for the market for $643, and employee charges were $1,100. So it was so far this month has been very, very good. And thanks to everybody for their donations and for their shopping in the market. And please keep it up, both of them. We need both donations and the shoppers. And wanted to make known that as of May 1, the outside visitation by agents and by dealers and that to the market will be delayed until 11 o'clock. So I've talked with Joan Hudson about it, and that advertising will get out. And then residents and their guests, their family are still welcome at all times. And the volunteer orientation for people that recently signed up for the market will be Saturday, April 30th at 4 p.m. in the market. And we'll have some sort of generalized comments, and then also link people up with the areas in which they might be interested in working. Next Monday is clearance. And at this point, a mask is still required in the market. Oh, and the naming of the male mannequin yesterday, there were over 40 suggestions, and a randomly selected name resulted in Malcolm. So that's the, hopefully, if we can, we're going to try to get a Horizon House name tag for him. So any comments or questions?
Okay. Thank you, Jennifer.
Sorry for my tardiness.
Oh, no, we
Too
would move
busy.
on. And your colleague will be back with you to work with you when?
Yes. Say that again.
I'm sorry. So now I'm going to ask May Gerstel, our Council Vice President for Programs, to give us her updates concerning our council programs and activities so far.
Well, it's just wonderful to see such a large number of you participating in and enjoying the many games and activities and music programs, lectures, and movies. And I want to remind you, it is not too late to join something that interests you, even if you haven't already signed up. There is an updated list of all the committees, their chairpeople, their contact information, and that's posted in the mailroom on the Residence Council bulletin board. All you have to do is contact the chairperson to find out when they meet, where they meet, and then decide if what they do works for you. If you have any questions or concerns, ask any resident council member, and we will all be happy to assist you. That's it for today, Elizabeth.
Thanks so much. And now we're going to introduce one of our spotlights. Council member and one of our committee coordinators, Nancy Olson, is going to introduce that first presenter. Bernice, Jenny. Nancy, are you unmuted?
Yeah, I am now. And I want to say, first of all, I guess that I'm standing in for Judy Ostrow, who can't be here. She is actually the coordinator for the Neighborhoods Committee. But I'm glad that I was the one chosen to replace her, because I'm very happy to be able to introduce JennyStimson, who is the chair of the Neighborhoods Committee, among her many other activities here at Horizon House. Most of you know her. She's through Zoom, if no other reason, since she's pretty active in helping us with that. Jenny's a lifelong resident of Seattle. She grew up in West Seattle, but has lived in several other neighborhoods. But she says no matter how long she lives here, she's constantly learning new things about our diverse neighborhoods. And as chair of the Neighborhoods Committee, that puts her in a very good position to do that. So I'd like to turn it over to Jenny, who will talk about what the Neighborhoods Committee has done and is doing.
Thanks, Nancy. Thank you for all you do for neighborhoods too. So thank you for that. The Neighborhoods Committee got started at Horizon House as Spotlight on Seattle, which you know is another committee that exists here. Phyllis Lamphere was really active in this group, and she recognized that maybe the Spotlight Committee needed to break off and have one committee that focused on singular events and places in Seattle, and another that would do a more in-depth look at a single neighborhood. And so that recommendation came to the council, and the council created the Neighborhoods Committee. Prior to the pandemic, the Neighborhoods Committee would select one Seattle neighborhood as a focus for 3 months of program. So usually we focused on 3 or 4 neighborhoods during a year. We learned the history of the neighborhood, what makes it unique in terms of the diversity of its residents, the art and the nature celebrated there. We learned about the sources of pride and its challenges. We offered field trips to sites that captured the uniqueness of the neighborhood. So I'm going to give as an example, just before COVID broke out, we were going to focus on West Seattle, and we planned 6 programs and 4 field trips or tours to West Seattle. And we started off in Anderson Hall with Clay Eels, the former director of the Southwest Seattle Historical Society, offering an overview of the history and uniqueness of West Seattle. Then Horizon House residents Jane Hastings and Kathy Gunstone shared about the history and assets of one of the communities within West Seattle, the Fauntleroy community where they each grew up. Phil Hoffman, who's on the Seattle Historical Society and an Alki researcher, talked about Alki, both a historical and a recreational focus. And then on the very day when we could no longer go to Anderson Hall, Judy Bentley had already sent her PowerPoints to us, and she was prepared to talk to us. But instead, Judy, who's an author, hiker, and historian, gave a Zoom presentation a few weeks later. That's when we shifted what we were doing here. She talked about the importance of the West Seattle industrial area that's known as North Delridge and Youngstown. And she talked about the history and the past there and what goes on in current day. We had planned for Silly Savusa to come. She's the executive director of the White Center Community Development Association. She was going to discuss White Center's past, present, and future. But that got sidelined because of COVID, and I doubt that that will happen. We also planned for Ken Workman, a descendant of Chief Seattle, to be interviewed by Clay Ills about the ways people are addressing challenges facing the Duwamish. Instead of Workman's presentation, we showed several documentaries that he recommended on HHTV. Then we had these tours planned. We hope to organize a visit to the Duwamish Longhouse and Cultural Center, to offer a guided tour of the West Seattle historical murals, to enjoy a bus tour of the sites mentioned in the different presentations, and then to take a walk through the Seattle Chinese Garden near South Seattle College. Of course, with COVID, we weren't going out in the bus and traveling to these places, so those have been delayed, but we're about to offer some of these opportunities. But I just wanted to explain that's the format that the Neighborhoods Committee normally operates in. More recently, what we've done is we've really taken advantage of resources offered by different organizations in Seattle. So during COVID, we've really relied on looking at programs offered by the Pacific Northwest Historians Guild, the Southwest Seattle Historical Society, the Rainier Valley Historical Society, the Seattle Public Library, MOHI, and Town Hall. So we looked at the programs they offered. Often they were recorded and they'd lend them to us. So sometimes we just re-showed their programs on HHTV, but a number of times we saw what great speakers they had, and we invited those speakers to come talk to us on Zoom so we could ask questions of them afterward. And then those programs were re-shown on HHTV. So instead of having an in-depth look at a neighborhood, we've gone to these more focused presentations on what's available. So now we're starting to organize some field trips that are allowing us to get out into the neighborhoods. So in the alert, you may have noticed an announcement that we're going to provide transportation to the Rainier Valley Food Bank's 2 open houses on April 27th and May 17th. It's in the alert from last week, and you can sign up with Hunter to be part of the people who are on the bus. We're also going to do 2 programs related to those West Seattle programs. We're going to go to the Chinese Gardens on May 11th. And again, that announcement is in the alert, and you can sign up with Hunter. We're going to tour the West Seattle historical murals probably in September. And right now we're organizing, we're talking with Kubota Gardens about doing a tour there in May or June, most likely in June. So we're trying to pick up and go back to where we were when we still were focusing on neighborhoods and getting into them. But one thing that came up in our programs is that sometimes people said to us afterward, we want to reach out to some of the issues that you addressed in your programs. So for instance, when we offered a program on a medical facility in Pioneer Square, we ended up collecting new socks for the medical staff there to give to their patients. When we co-sponsored a program on the Rainier Valley Food Bank with the State Tax and Economy Committee, some residents suggested that we hold a food drive or gather money in support of the food bank. We talked about this on the Neighborhoods Committee, and we decided that we see our role as educational and piquing the curiosity and interest of people here at Horizon House. Yet we recognize a need for something like a Residents' Council Committee on Community Service that could highlight the many ways that Horizon House committees and individuals currently reach out to the community, and then link people who are interested in reaching out for opportunities to serve. So I want to say to you here, I hope somebody's listening to this and say, wow, that's exactly the committee I would like to help start. We would give you some information about that, but I think it's a need here to really highlight that people do give service in many ways at Horizon House, and to highlight those, and also to link people, perhaps people that don't know how food is shared or toys are made in the craft room or blankets are made in the sewing room and so on. So there's a lot that's going on that some people don't know about here. So I want to end this by talking about what are the joys of being on the Neighborhoods Committee. First, we get to learn about new neighborhoods or more about the neighborhoods we're already familiar with. We get to view interesting programs to evaluate and consider showing them at Horizon House. And the people on the committee get to see many more programs than we actually are able to share. We visit potential sites for field trips. We're able to be with people who are curious and connected. Of course, this is an advantage of being on any committee here at Horizon House, but it's one of the real joys to be with people who are curious. And we get to hear from residents after a program has been shown, and they tell us if it resonated with them. So sometimes when you send those messages, emails or a phone call and said, wow, that was an interesting program, that's one of the joys of doing this work. So I just want to end by saying that I hope this helped you learn what the Neighborhoods Committee does. And I hope you realize why many of us are really pleased that we get the opportunity to be on this committee. Thank you.
Thank you, Jenny. You just said it. That's just what we're hoping will be accomplished by these spotlights. People to get acquainted with our committees, understand how you can be involved and how important they are in what they're doing. That was impressive. So Councilmember Deanna Nelson now, who is coordinator for our liaison committees, will introduce our next spotlight presenters. Need to unmute.
Sorry. The second spotlight today will be presented by the Welcoming Committee. Members of this committee were most likely the first residents you met when you moved to Horizon House, so their work is quite important in making new residents feel at home. The committee is involved in 3 aspects of welcoming: mentoring, mixers, and the New Residents Guidebook. The first presenter is Bernice Kastner, Chair of the Welcoming Committee and the Mentors Program. Bernice?
So Bernice, have you unmuted your screen? Okay.
There, I had thought I had unmuted. Okay, so the Welcoming Committee, as it says here, we have 3 aspects: the mentoring, the mixers, and the guidebook. I will talk about mentoring, and we will have the people in charge of the mixers will talk about mixers. So, but we don't have anybody presenting anything about the guidebook. And so one of the things I want to say first is about the guidebook, and is not on any of my slides, which is that for those residents here who've been here for a long time, I hope you realize that the guidebook is published on, the committee works very hard on keeping it up to date, and it is published on HH Connect. So if your guidebook is out of date, you will find the latest one on HH Connect. And of course, if you don't have a computer at home, people in the library can help you access it there. Okay, so let's go to the next slide. So the mentors make contact with the new residents. They leave a note before the night before the residents are scheduled to move in, and they provide their contact information so that the new residents can call somebody if they want to ask any questions. And they also leave a sheet with the phone extensions that people might need for immediate use. The how to get in touch. I mean, I attended some sessions that marketing ran with new residents, and most of the questions that came up there had to do with the renovation issues. So we let them know what's the best way to contact people about that. And then, of course, if you've just moved, you need help getting rid of packing materials. And we also provide the current alert and that week's dining menus. And we give them the update, the latest edition of the guidebook. Next slide. When the new residents are ready, because you all know how hard it is to move, then the mentors talk about some of the issues, some of the information in the guidebook. They make sure they know about the atlas for Horizon House, that the activities sponsored by the Residents Council, which are all listed in the guidebook, and how to join a committee. And they also invite the new resident to a lunch or a brunch in the dining room at the welcoming committee's expense. Now, I think we skipped one slide. No? There. How to find the different meeting rooms that are in Anderson Hall. Of course, at the moment, Anderson Hall isn't in effect, but you know, a lot of new people are confused by the fact that the 3 different sections have 3 different names. Then we need to point out which elevators service the Sky Lounge floor. Although lately we haven't been going to the Sky Lounge, but once that's back, we really need to know that. I cannot tell you how many people I've met wandering around trying to figure out how to get to the Sky Lounge. And of course, we have to let them know how to find the West Wing, where the Monday Market, the game room, and the exit to Freeway Park and the Convention Center. And we show them how to use our library. So, you know, in general, those are the things that are listed on the to-do list for the mentors to make sure to do. And, you know, many of them do a lot of other escorting to make sure that the new residents know where the activity rooms are and if they're interested in the gym. Of course, for a while, you know, people had to sign up to use the gym. And the pool, and we've come through a very difficult time in terms of mentoring with COVID, but we've rolled with it, and the mentors have really been trying to do their job. I will now let you go to the Mixers Committee.
And the next presenters from the Mixers of the portion of the Welcoming Committee are Pat Waite and Helen Jones, co-chair. Unmute.
Are we unmuted? We're unmuted. Hi. All of us remember what it was like to be new at Horizon House. So many changes and things to learn, and it can be made so much easier if you have a few new friends to help you along the way. And that's where the Mixer Committee comes in. New resident mixer parties are a long-standing tradition at Horizon House. They're sponsored by the Residents Council, and they are planned and hosted by the new Residents Mixer Committee. The goal is just to provide a really festive place to welcome new residents and to give them the opportunity to meet each other.
The mixers are held 2 or 3 times a year for residents who've moved into Horizon House in the preceding few months. Usually there are about 20 new residents. The numbers change depending on how many have come in, but an average of 20 new residents are invited, along with committee members, and when possible, a few established residents. This group of people comes together for wine and appetizers, along with introduction, sharing, and conversation. Our hope is that every new resident will leave the mixer with a few new friends. If any of you out there would love to be part of the Mixer Committee, please just get a hold of one of us. We'd love to have some additional members. Now, to help you get a flavor of the mixer, here are a few photos of a recent one.
Thank you so much, you committee people. As you folks watching us today can see, we are trying to introduce you and acquaint you with just many of our committees, and you'll be surprised each month at who we'll bring forward. But May Gerstel, our Vice President for Programs, is heading up a committee that selects these who will be spotlighted. And this next month, she's telling us we're going to have our Communications Committee speak, as well as you'll hear from one of the games leaders. who's chosen from the variety of games in which any of us can participate. Hope you'll want to watch that. And now we're going to hear from Carol Roach, our Council Vice President for Administration.
Hello. Just for continuity and for my own pleasure, I wanted to congratulate the Mixer Committee. My husband and I were able to attend as guests, and I thought it was a wonderful, wonderful event. And I also left with quite a few new friends, and I'm not a newbie here. So thank you for that. I congratulate you for that wonderful program that you give. I also wanted to mention on a similar topic that a team of Residence Council members held the Residence Council orientation for new Horizon House residents about 3 weeks ago. And as we found out at the Mixer also, there's an especially lively and enjoyable group of new folks here, and we're so fortunate to have them with us. I'd like to welcome again Judy Talley, John Shadoff, Ellen Leggett, Sue Mitchell, Edgar Wood, Marion Boyer, and Barry Eben. Those were the folks who attended the Residence Council orientation for some information about how the Residence Council functions and its committees, but also a chance for our Residence Council team to get better acquainted with them. It was a pleasure. It was also wonderful on March 28th, and that's been, 3 weeks now, to see the outpouring of thanks and affection from Horizon House residents for the outgoing Monday Market co-directors, Susan Barish and Cami Elbow, at the end of their long and deeply appreciated service here. That Monday was mobbed with well-wishers during every minute the market was open on Cami and Susan Day at the market. Already the new co-directors, Jennifer Stucker and Barbara McCard, have market operations spinning along smoothly, and we welcome them with huge gratitude and stand ready to support them in every way we can. Last month at this meeting, I resumed a long tradition that at least I know Audrey Whitecamp did this as VP for administration, of entertaining questions of curious residents in the Fireplace Lounge right after every regular resident council meeting. And these questions can be fun. They can be something that is truly perplexing and need to be answered in an important way. Right now, you might have a question like, what kind of protective service are they applying in the top of the Sky Lounge? Any question is fair game. I won't know the answer, but I will try to find out for you and report my findings at the next month's Resident Council meeting. Today, I will meet live at the Fireplace Lounge beginning about 15 minutes after this meeting ends, and I'll be there for 45 minutes. So if you want to talk in person, that's fine. If you have a question you'd rather send me by email, my name is Carol Roach, R-O-A-C-H, like the insect, and you can find it in the resident directory. You can find my email address. So either way, I'd love to hear from you. And now the answers to last week's questions. Joan Bowers asked, how can new residents learn about various committees and consider joining? There were quite a few answers, and the richest answer I got, we just heard yet again from May Gerstle, that explained very carefully. The new residents themselves can be sure that they have the current year's program book, which looks like this. This is a very important document. And it is red this year. That gives a brief description of every committee and activity, the meeting times, as well as a contact number for the chair or the leader of that group. When new residents find some committees that hold interest for them, they don't have to decide immediately whether to join or not. They can contact the chair, ask to visit, or they can just show up and introduce themselves as someone who might be interested in the topic or activity. Question number 2, Joan Singler asked, what are the resident council's projected expenses why are the residents council's projected expenses more than our income this year? That is a head scratching question. And I got a great response from Diane Tinker, who is resident council treasurer. Her answer is that the residents council has more than ample reserve funds to cover a loss in the next year. The budget committee wants to meet the needs of our committees to bring our activities back into their normal level as much as possible. And as a nonprofit corporation, we should not accumulate a large reserve anyway. So it is appropriate to use reserve funds to invigorate our committees at this time because we can afford to do so. The third question is from Pat Lewis. Are our donations to the Employee Recognition Fund tax deductible? And the answer came from Elizabeth Hoover, who is our current resident council president, of course, but also the 2021 chair of the ERF, or the Employee Recognition Fund. The following statement is printed on our acknowledgements for contributions to the fund, as well as our ERF correspondence. Quote, contributions to the fund are tax deductible to the extent authorized by the law. Please consult your tax advisor. So those are the answers to last month's questions. And if you want to hear yours answered publicly in a month, please meet me in the Fireplace Lounge or give me an email. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Carol. And now Deanne Nelson's back on the agenda here to make a couple of announcements. She again is our liaison committee's coordinator.
So many of you have seen all the activity in the Fireside Lounge lately with screens going down and up and people running around and a lounge being closed off for construction. And that's because all of the audio and video equipment has been upgraded. The upgrades will also be installed in Anderson Hall and the Sky Lounge. As a result, the event support handbook, this item, is outdated and it needs to be updated. So if you have a copy of this handbook, please leave your copy at the front desk. The books will be revised by the event support committee and you will be trained in the new equipment. I can't tell you when exactly that will be. It'll probably be closer to the time when Anderson Hall is reopening. Or if you have an event in the Fireside Lounge before then, they will train you how to use the equipment there. So please turn in your books. They would appreciate it. The next announcement is for the Dining Services Committee. Not only will Carol be in the Fireside Lounge this morning, there'll be a representative from the Dining Committee. They intend to have a table there after every resident council meeting. So that's once a month at least. So you can bring your questions or concerns about the dining services and the programs and anything you want to talk about. They are your representatives. It's a liaison committee, which means that they communicate with the administration. So what you bring to them, they will bring to the administration. Please come down and visit them today. Thank you.
Thank you, Deanna. And if you thought that only these you heard from today are the ones who do all of the activities and the work for the council, you're mistaken, because every one of the council members is very busy coordinating their groups or participating in their committee work. So I just want you to know we hopefully will have before you every one of them at some time during the year. And now, just a bit more of our council business. As required by the bylaws of the Residents' Council, I hereby appoint a 5-member nominating committee to seek the replacements for the council's members whose terms of office will expire at the end of this year. The new nominating committee members are Connie Hellier, our chair, will be the chair of this committee, and then her other committee members will be Bill Anderson, Madge Hislop, Alice Melanie, and Susan Barish. We also hope that you'll join us next month on May 17, when we'll be featuring the Council's Communications Committee, as I said, and the American Mahjong game. And so, in the ending this meeting, are there any questions or comments about anything that has occurred at this meeting today? I'm asking that of the council members because I don't think that any of the outside audience is permitted to speak. Any council members with any comments, additional or questions? Okay, in that case, the meeting is adjourned, and thank you for joining us.